Hey, what's up? It's your girl Punana, the Plus Size Beauty, and we're back with another episode of She Is Plus Size Beauty Sundays. And here we are with the nominated writer and activist, George M. Johnson. How you doing, George?
I'm good. How are you today?
Oh, you know me. I'm up off coffee, so you know I'm ready for action. I'm ready for everything today.
Absolutely.
Yay! And so I'm so excited to have you here. We are going to get into some things.
Yes.
Oh my God. So let's do it.
I'm feeling good. It's like the end of the year. I've had a very busy year, a very productive year.
Yes.
A life-changing year, I guess, in many ways. So it's nice to kind of be towards the end of the year where I can kind of now like sit and live in all of the things that I've been able to do. Because a lot of times I don't take time to actually like live in the success because I'm always doing the next thing. So
I promise you, because it's like sometimes being around you and then like seeing what you're doing, I'm like ecstatic. I think I'd be more excited for you. Like people be like, why are you screaming? And I'll be like, my friend just got this. Like my friend is doing this. Oh my God, George, for you to be like so humble, you got to let the people know what's your hometown.
I am from a small city called Plainfield, New Jersey. It's about 55,000 citizens there. I was born and raised there. My family's been there since like 1963, I believe, was when my first family member moved to Plainfield. So we have a lot of history, tradition in that town. But my accent doesn't sound like a Jersey accent. So I know people probably like, well, what part of Jersey
You from Jersey?
Right. And it's like, I'm from Central Jersey. If I say coffee, then like the way I say coffee, people then are like, oh yeah, you are. But I was raised around my grandmothers who were from the South. And I lived in the South for a bit of time from 17 to 27. And so my accent is kind of like a mix of like Jersey and the South.
I can tell because I'm super ecstatic just to have you here. Reading this book, All Boys Aren't Blue. I'm telling you, you guys, everyone has to read this book because reading you, I kind of got a very detailed and inside how you were growing up and your family and just like identity. It was very different just being around you here because you're such a bubbly and just you're very laid back. So to read that, I was like emotional in a sense. Like this cannot happen to my friend. Like this is not. But it was so much relatable. Like family, Black family, having a big Black family. Your explanation on it, like how can you explain that to most people? Because I know what it's like to have a big Black family.
Yeah. When you come from a big Black family, it's great. Like you always feel like you already have. I always say like because I grew up with my cousins, I had instant best friends, and so I think a lot of times like your first your first cousins typically become your best friends, and so I'm still close with a lot of my cousins to this day because we were all raised and went to school together and all of those things. Right. So when you're in a big family, it's like everybody's taking care of everybody. So like all my aunts lived in the same neighborhood. My play aunts lived in the same neighborhood.
Down the street, around the corner.
Right.
Everywhere.
When you have big Black families, I always say you're like my mom's first cousins, I all have titling as aunts. So even though they're technically my mom's first cousins, it's still like my Aunt Deneen.
Right.
Aunt Darlene is my Aunt Sarah's best friend who's been around the family for
forever
years.
Yeah.
She's Aunt Darlene. And so like that's kind of like the big Black family dynamic is like you end up with a lot of extended family, a lot of people who are your cousins, a lot of people who are like, wait, are y'all real cousins or like play?
Or like y'all play cousins.
Play cousins.
Yeah.
Like, well, it's never play because these people are really my family. But are we blood related cousins? No. But are we cousins? Yes, absolutely. Because these people all raised us. It was great. Like I said, you always had something to do. You always had people to hang with. So the big Black family dynamic is one that I'm fortunate to have because I know everybody doesn't have
people
as much
don't
family. And I don't
have
realize that all the time. And it's also beautiful because I get to bring my friends into my family oftentimes, and that's always a cool thing.
You know what? And it's surprisingly because when you're raised around a whole big Black family, as we are, you come around other sets of people and diversity, and they'll tell you like, oh no, it was just me and my mom, or just like immediate, and you're just like, and you take. I swear, I took one of my friends to a birthday party, gagged. He was just like, this is what y'all do. I'm like, yeah, it's just you can your baby can go play with the rest of the kids, like and just like don't even like worry. He never seen anything like that. And I think that's part of the Black culture, that the Southern, especially the Southern part.
Especially
What
Southern
you
culture. Yeah.
explained, it hit hard in
Yeah.
the book because I was like, that was, my family came from Oklahoma. So it's like we have that bit of the city, and then it's the culture, the
Yeah.
food, the big family, the way they talk to you,
Yeah.
the way family's always there, and
Yeah.
we always go to Big Mama's house.
Right.
That type of culture. How was that? Having that culture and then trying to find the identity of yourself.
Yeah, it could be tough at times because you kind of felt alone. Like you were surrounded by people, but you could still feel alone at times because you were like, I'm still like, even though I know these people love me and support me and like
But
I
who is
love
me?
them, but who am I in
Right.
this? How do I fit into this equation of my cousins who are all like heterosexual and just so different from me? And and my brain, the same way my brain works now, being a creative, it didn't just one day start when I was an adult. That meant I was a creative as a child too. And so a lot of people don't understand creatives and where their mind goes and what they're thinking about and how they process things. And so as a kid, it could be really, really lonely because your mind is thinking about world building and like all of these
Yeah.
like exciting things, and other kids' imaginations aren't necessarily tied
To
to
that.
like being a creative. They're
Mhm.
more sports oriented, or they're more math and science, or STEM and like other things that they
Something
were
so
interested in,
simplistic,
right?
and yours was just like more
More
creative.
creative and
Yeah.
like just
And
thinking
out of
so
the
much
box.
bigger and so colorful, right? And then you're also like, I don't know, but I don't really like girls in that way, right? And you're a little
Yeah.
kid and you can already process that you don't like girls in that way, but you don't really have any resources or anybody around you to help you understand what you're going through. So it was, like I said, it was great that I always had somewhere to call home, but it could be isolating at times because they didn't know, I didn't know what was going on with me. They didn't really know what was going on with me. And so I kind of just had to take that journey.
It was the norm, and I think it opened my eyes because as we grow up, me being cis, we're taught to this way and this box and the gender roles and whatnot. And seeing that in the first few pages, you were like, it shouldn't just be like pink or blue.
Right.
Your mom was just like, I want a healthy baby.
Yep.
Because we don't know.
Yeah.
We just know this conformant that we're stuck with in this box. Like, this is what it's going to be. It's going to be a girl, and this is going to be a boy, and they're
Yep.
going to be brought up this way. And reading that, and I was just like, being 34, it is different because these children are very outspoken. Like,
Yes, they
I don't
are.
feel like this. I don't
Yeah.
feel like that. I don't
Yeah.
want to do
I don't
that.
want to wear this.
So I'm just like, damn, imagine how far back you felt like that. Imagine how most people who never expressed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember the first time I ever wore like a tutu. I was in my 20s and like
Oh my God.
I was in
had
like
to.
New Orleans and like I just was like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. Like, and I remember posting it online. I remember people in my fraternity just like not being upset by it realistically, but they were like, okay. Like, and some of them like text me and was like, you know what, like you're finally breaking through to explore yourself and we're gonna
I
let you
love
rock.
that.
And of course some of them was just like, I don't know, whatever. But like
That's wrong.
not even it wasn't like that's wrong. They was just like, oh God, like this is like really pushing it for us as like, and they like, George is a leader, like what are people gonna think? And then all these years later, I probably was like, we go to New Orleans. It was in my 20s, definitely, late 20s.
Right.
Then all these years later, like they all see me now being, non-binary and wearing the makeup, wearing the heels, and it doesn't even faze them because they're like, you still like one of the coolest, smartest, you fighting for community. They like, it helped them to unpack their own biases
Yeah.
against why that bothered them so much. And so
It broadened their horizons.
and I think it also has helped them with their children because now,
Yeah.
it's funny, like I just remember becoming a member of the fraternity and people like, oh, we don't really want gay members
Oh
to
my
be
God, that was so horrible.
so
to me.
effeminate or so this
Yeah.
or so that, right? But now, all these years later, they're like, now their kids are in their teens because I crossed 17 years ago.
Yeah.
So now they all have kids who are in their teens and they're like, my teen just like came out to me and they're calling me now for the advice on like, how do I operate with this? How do I handle it? But because they had a member like me, it was much easier for them because they were like, I already know someone like this. And I know how dope that person is, which means
Yeah.
I know how amazing my kid can be. if I just support my kid because I watched a kid who had that same type of family support. And so even indirectly, me just being and existing and going through that journey and then watching it has helped a whole lot of other people who are now navigating that space as parents. And so, like, when it was hard for them in their 20s to understand me, now they're in their 40s and they're like, oh, like, I
Oh,
get it.
I get
I
it.
get
Like
it
you're
because, and I have
mhm.
someone I can call when I don't get it. That
Like, "I don't
can
get this, George, like, help
with
me
me.
understand, like,
Right.
I
Or
don't
like,
understand."
can my kid talk to you? And I'm like, yeah,
Mhm.
put him on the phone. And like we sit and we
Oh.
talk. And it's like, and I'm just glad I could be a resource in that way. And it's like I try to do it as publicly as possible so that other people could be resources too.
Mhm. It was, I think, what really made me love this book. You touched on trauma,
Yeah.
and that's certain things that our Black culture doesn't like to really bring up. They
Right.
dust it under the rug, no matter how back it happened. Like, it can happen to you, as I said, you said in elementary,
Elementary school. Yeah.
like getting your teeth kicked out.
Yep.
Like, I remember trauma as a little kid that I still have in my brain
Hmm.
that still fucks with me.
Yeah.
When you get sad or depressed and
Yeah.
you be like, "Oh my God,"
Yeah.
the trauma growing up. But was it any trauma? Like, does that kind of affect you when, like people were trying to ban this book? Did it like bring back like Jesus? It was just like, what did I do to y'all guys? Like, why do y'all keep hurting me?
Yeah. It it didn't. Like it didn't trigger like the traumas that I talk about in the
Okay.
book, but I do think it brought up like the current things that I deal with that are traumatizing to me, which
Yeah.
are like being a public figure who's queer, which is, trying to write these stories
Mhm.
uh that are being attacked by the federal government at this point and state
Shame
government,
on them.
state legislature, and local governments at this point.
Mhm.
The fear of when you are a public figure, it doesn't necessarily give you any added safety as a Black queer person. It sometimes makes you an even bigger target. And so I think those type of traumas start to play because you feel like at times you're always looking over your shoulder or you're always having
Yeah.
to make sure you got security at events. You got to be careful about when you're traveling to certain cities or states that are banning the book, and
Because they get
because
crazy.
it gets it
Yeah,
gets
they get crazy.
wild. And so I think it did bring about a new set of traumatic things that I had to
Mhm.
process and I had to really think about as I moved forward with fighting against the book bans and just being vocal as a person. But it didn't really like my story is my story, so it was like I no one's gonna make me change this story. No one's gonna make me feel
Hide.
ashamed of the
Yeah.
story
Yeah.
or re-traumatize me because I'm telling my story. But it did bring about a new set of things that I had to think about that can play, with your mental health and other aspects.
It does, like, I'll give it an example. I remember we were out, this is crazy, you guys. Your trauma, you writing this book,
Yeah.
help people because we were at a ball
Yes.
and we were talking, I'm telling you, we were talking, you guys. And this random person came up real close to us. And I ain't even gonna lie, I got scared because he was just like, and then he went into the spiel like, I never thought you would come to this certain part of
Hmm.
the city,
Yeah.
and I just wanna let you know that I love your book and things like that, and this man digged in his bag. We didn't know what he was about to do. He literally pulled out the book and
He
was like
did. Yeah.
he was like, "Oh my god, can you
Can you
sign
sign it?
it?" And that was just like, "Oh my god."
Yeah.
Like, this book really did touch a lot of people,
Yeah.
and it's crazy how your words are conveying and
Yeah.
helping people their eyes to broaden their horizons and just bring diversity and love,
Yeah.
because there's so much hatred from sometimes people have trauma and they spew hate because
Yeah.
they don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
It's just, like, crazy. Oh my god, I can't I could go on and on. I'm telling you, like, on and on. Like the book ban, like, you have to talk to so many people.
Yes. I'm like, I've probably done I guess the book band started about 2.5 years ago. I mean, I've easily have done 300 or 400 interviews about it. Like, I mean, national TV from Tamron Hall to like, I mean, MSNBC, CNN. Like, I've been on a lot of networks, on a lot of shows, lots
Yes,
of
yes, you have.
articles. I was recognized by Time Magazine as one of
Oh
the
my
100
god, it's
most
been
next influential people in the world because of the fight against censorship. Like, it has taken a life of its own, but it's necessary that like if this was the fight that was given to me, then it's a necessary fight that I have to continue.
I have to remember that I am a correspondent because sometimes when I'm on Instagram and some people say some hatred stuff,
Yeah.
it takes me everything not to say anything, and I'll be
Right.
like,
Right.
I'm just be like, don't. I'll be like, don't say nothing back. Don't say nothing back. Knowing your history and everything you've been through, and just finding your identity and your family, your career. And I know people don't personally, you don't really put it out there. You do, but then I know people just see this aspect. They just see this Arthur. They see you
Yeah.
winning these awards, being nominated, looking fab. What is a day in the life of George? Like just on a regular basis? Because, I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it. It's very busy. But what is a day in a life as George?
Yeah, most days I do start between 6 a.m. and 6:30 a.m. I try to
Mhm.
get up around that hour. Um, I always say before I do anything for the world, I always do something for myself for the first 10 minutes. So
Mhm.
even if it's like making a cup of coffee, talking to my altar where like I have pictures of like my grandmother
Oh,
and
yes. Mhm.
people who have passed on that watch over me. I just try to take some time out to myself in the morning before I open my laptop or before I respond to emails or do
Mhm.
anything else. Because I'm on the West Coast, and half my team is on the West Coast, half my team is on the East Coast.
Oh, imagine waking up
Because
early.
film and television happens in LA, so that team is all out here. My lawyer is all out here, but publishing primarily happens on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So book agent, um, speakers bureau agent, my editor, my publicist, they are all in New York. So by the time I wake up to emails. So those are always the first emails that I address.
Blast
Like,
it. Just
because I
wake
wake
up
up
like.
and there are going to be multiple emails from the team already. So I get up, I try to address emails first. Inside of my calendar, I have writing blocks set up because
Mhm.
I always am writing. So
You are.
currently, so like for instance, I have a book that's coming out in 2025.
Yeah.
And so and then I have another one that's coming out 2026. And so you have to start writing those things now though, because they have to go through a long editing process and all of those things.
Yes, it's the back and forth.
And the
It's the
back and
back and forth.
forth. So working on those two drafts. So I always start out typically with like my publishing stuff in the morning.
Right.
By the time I get to noon, I try to go to the gym. I try to have lunch, and
Yeah.
I always go for 2 walks a day. So
Yeah,
that's
you
one
did tell
thing.
me.
I
You
take
was
two
like,
walks a
I walk
day
a lot.
because my vitamin D be acting up. So I try to get sunlight twice a day, natural
Vitamin D.
sunlight. When I come back, I then shift gears to film and TV because West Coast people are film and TV. So
Yeah. Yes, we
usually
are.
my East Coast offices are closed by 5, which is 2 o'clock out here. So then I can shift my mind to West Coast stuff because my West Coast team is still going to be in the office. So then I start getting into the film and TV emails.
Yeah.
I'm working on a movie project. I'm always working on something, and like a short documentary. So I'm either like doing a treatment for it or adding notes or trying to come up with like act 1, act 2, act 3, writing through those things, answering emails there. Um, I'm getting better with cooking now. I mean, I can cook.
He's
I just
lying. He's
no, I'm
lying,
not getting
y'all.
better with what I'm saying, I'm getting better with cooking for
He's
like actually
lying.
cooking. Like I can really cook, but I just used to order out all the time.
He does. I'll be like, George, this is
Yes,
this
I
is
order out
insane.
all the
This is
time.
insane.
But for the last 10 days, I've been cooking again like I used to do because I used to do meal prep and all of that.
Mhm.
And so I try to set up time for me to cook every night now. Um, yeah, but I'm really a homebody. Like I
Oh
think a
yeah, I
lot
can
of people
tell. I
think
can
I'm
tell.
not, but I'm really a homebody. And so that's like a typical day if I'm at home. Um, but I also travel a lot and
A
I travel
lot.
a lot. So on those days, it's like from the bed to the airport, working on the plane, land, change my clothes, go do a speaking engagement for a couple hours, come back to the hotel, check all the emails, check everything else, go to
This is
bed,
why you're
catch another
thin.
flight,
This
right?
is why you're thin. I'm
Running
surprised you
through the
don't
airport.
pass out in the like just like right in the walkway,
Yeah.
just like bah.
Yeah, yeah, but that's a typical day for me. It's a lot of writing involved. I try to get 6 to 8 hours of writing in a day.
Oh, you do. 'Cause I
Um,
think it's times where I've came over and
yes,
just
and
like visiting you guys. It's post-its everywhere. Like I can't even sit down on the couch, and I'm just like, there's a laptop, there's post-its, there's paper, there's
papers.
things, and I'm just
Yeah,
like,
I'm always working.
yeah, I don't even want to see my
Yeah.
living room. It's crazy. So that's your life
Yes.
as an entrepreneur. Like, what is your goal? Like your passion. The passion is you as an entrepreneur and an activist.
Yeah, I
Everybody see
mean,
the writer.
yeah.
Everybody see you win the awards, but your passion for being an entrepreneur and just an activist.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. So,
Mhm.
like, my
Yes.
grandmother had a catering business, my
Mhm.
mom owned beauty salons. So, I got to see what that looked like from a very young age. And I always knew, like, I wanted to kind of be my own boss at
Mhm.
some point. And so now I get to do that. It's not easy. And a lot of it, you don't really have a blueprint for. I'm There are people who have done this before, but I don't but at the capacity that I'm doing it now, like, I don't think that there's a whole lot of us, and so, it's like, people write books that get optioned all the time for TV and
Oh,
film.
yeah, of course.
But a lot of them don't then become a part of the TV and film process and then create their own intellectual property outside of books. And I do both. And I also speak, and I also still am a journalist. So I also still write cover stories and I also still write big articles
Yeah.
for news media outlets. And I do TV and I also am getting into fashion. So it's like I have branched out. Like, writing has given me the opportunity to do all of these other things. And so as an entrepreneur, I just try to show, like, you can kind of have all the things that you desire, but I always say, like, get good at one thing first and then let that be the thing that kind of puts you everywhere else.
Yeah, because you
Um,
don't wanna burn yours look,
yeah.
I tell everyone, if you have all these ideas and you wanna do these aspects, just remember to start with one because
Yep.
you will burn
You'll burn
yourself
yourself out.
out.
Um, you then become like a jack of all trades and a master of none of them. And
That's cute.
I've never wanted to be that person. So it was like,
Mhm,
I became a strong journalist before I became an author. And
mhm.
then wrote my first book, which was All Boys Aren't Blue. It did well. Then I said, okay, I can write another and I can sharpen my iron even more. And then, the speaking gigs, it was like I started out small and doing them. And then I got an agent to help me with them. And now that's one of my prominent things that I do, right? But I also worked on orating and getting better at doing interviews and getting better at taking questions and all
Mhm.
of those type of things. And then when it came time for the book to be optioned, I read books on how do you write a script? How do you write a treatment? I contacted friends who were in the business and I practiced and I practiced and I practiced
Yeah,
until
because
I
practice makes
perfected it.
perfect, yeah.
But I didn't just jump directly into film and TV like, you know what?
Imma do this.
I'm gonna write a
Imma
movie.
s
I'm
yeah,
gonna write a
Imma
TV
do
show. It
this.
was like, no, I took my time. I wrote the book first and learned the craft of that style of writing, and then went into a different space once I figured out that I solidified myself being an author.
I love that.
And so I think that's kind of like been the process for me, like not to just jump into something because it's cool or because it's popular or because it's like something that I just want to do right now. I think Ayanla, she had said something about like the appointed time versus the anointed time. And
Oh my
so
god,
I
yes.
try to not appoint a time that I have to do something or have to break into an industry. I try to wait for it to be like an anointed thing where it feels like
It
this is
feels
right. Like,
right,
it's
it
right for
feels
me. It's
right.
time for
Put
me
it
to
out
do
there.
this now. It's time for me to put
Mhm.
it out there now. It's time for me to work on this type of project now.
Yeah.
And I even think about that with books. Sometimes my agent is like, you ready to write this thing?" And I'm like, "No." And for months, there was a particular book that I was like, "No, I don't want to write it yet. I don't want to write it yet." And then 2 months ago, I
Not
was like,
ready.
"I'm ready." 2 months ago, when she called and asked again, I said, "Yeah." And she was like, "For real?" I said, "Yeah." And she was like, "Okay." I was like, "It feels different when you ask me this time, so I know it's the right time to write
Yeah,
it."
it's that gut
And so that's
feeling.
how I am. And I've canceled deals before because I do a deal and then I start writing. And I'm like, this ain't right. And I've canceled deals before. Like I'm getting much better at waiting for that time when I'm like, nope, now is the time. Not trying to appoint it a time.
Oh, I love that. And the world is when I tell you your words do have power, sitting you talking on those panels or just sitting you talking in a room full of people, it does have power. And it makes people feel as if they're getting a little aspect of you and then it's getting that hope. Like I when you talked about the book about it being bad and you said, "Child, just take the cover off." They just gonna see that it's a blue book. They ain't
Right.
gonna understand. And the whole like room just started laughing because
Yeah.
it was like, okay, if we take the cover off and we just put it on
On
the
the shelf.
stands,
Like,
it will still sell. You guys,
it's just a blue book.
people do love your words and what you say and just your articles, like your collaborations. Like I know you're proud. I was screaming your collaborations with Harper Bazaar,
Yes.
especially the one where you had like the black and white and wait, you posting that, I was literally screaming. I think I shared it like, oh my god, I don't even know how many times I shared it. How the Harper Bazaar, and then
Yeah.
I believe you did like the paper magazine,
Yes.
like the paper magazine about
Yes.
Beyonce Renaissance, because Beyonce Renaissance is like a whole
It
era
is an era that we're
that
still in.
that we are still in,
Yes.
and it's like it's putting a staple onto the world.
Yeah.
How did you like?
Yeah, it goes back to like these opportunities come because I just do my work.
Yeah,
And I tell everybody like just do your work and these type of opportunity or these type of things sometimes will find you.
yeah,
Um I I've worked really, really hard over the last decade, and people who have looked at my fashion grow
ah,
and over the last, I would say, 4 to 5 years, and people have seen my writing get stronger and stronger and
yes,
stronger and
yes.
becoming a voice of this generation of authors and just and even, story writers for like regular articles. I think those opportunities came because people saw like the passion that I put into this. Like I don't just do this for fun. I do it with purpose. And I think because I live a purpose-driven life,
Amen.
these type of opportunities have found me. I would have never thought that I would, potentially be in Harper's Bazaar. But
That's
it found
everybody's
me, right?
dream.
And it found me because of a article that was being written about the fight against censorship. And so that's
Mhm.
why I say if you go into what you're passionate about, sometimes these other opportunities that you have put on your vision board or that you have dreamed about will
Mhm.
find you because you're doing the work. Um,
And manifesting it,
yeah.
speaking it into existence
Yeah,
most times.
and I think that there's, because there is a difference. Like there are some people who are doing the work to become famous, and I don't think that's not a problem as long as you know that that's what your conviction is.
Yeah.
And then there are some of us who do this work and then become more known and then become famous, right?
Mhm.
But that the ultimate goal was never fame. The ultimate goal was the work for me and watching how people were moved by the work. And I've
Mhm.
always felt that way.
Yeah.
And so I think though that's why some of these opportunities open up because people were like, I wasn't seeking this. Like I didn't intentionally keep, like necessarily tagging and this and
Mhm.
that like at and and it's again not a problem with those who do it as long as you know that you have some type of plan behind it and
Yeah.
that the plan ain't just
To be famous,
to be
like, to
famous
be
like
famous, it's like your work to have some meaning to it,
yeah
and to
and
be remembered.
and I always say like you could do all of these things and you could have a lot of followers but where are you leading them.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so that's why, like, for me, I've never even been concerned about like having like a super, super high follow count. Cause I was like, as long as I do my work, it'll naturally come. The thing right now is I want to make sure I'm leading them to the place that I need to lead them. And I don't want that place to be built on anything, just surface level. Like I want it to be meaningful and I want it to be purposeful. And so I enjoy watching others who do the work with so much purpose and so much meaning and are leading people to places of being awake in what's going on around us.
Oh my god, yes.
So yeah.
Well, you're very likable. It's just like your
I
humbleness.
hope
When
so.
I first met you, like you're very likable. You're just like people gravitate to you because of your personality.
Yeah.
It's funny, it's humbling, it's very motivating. Watching you do your work is for me, it's motivating. I can't really speak for everybody else, but reading your words and then watching what you do, it's like seeing another person, of color actually doing that. And
Yeah.
then from the community,
Yeah.
how would you not be like inspired or just wanting to do that or do something in your own aspect and wanting to be just as great? And then we got to talk about it. And I know you're very nonchalant when we talk about it because every time we say something to you, you be like, you get all shy. Your personal style. Now we got to talk about your personal style. Like even in the Harper Bazaar with the black and white, like you be coming with the looks. It's giving real fashionista. It's giving very like look at that. You be coming with the looks. Even when we go out, just every look like on the red carpet. I believe you got your own brand,
Yeah.
out now.
Yeah.
And then when you're on red carpets, I think when you won the GLAAD Award, you had on like, and there was this other like leather piece, like that leather piece right there. Like it's just so bomb. When we were at the ball, like all those leather pieces and things, like George, you know what you be doing. I bet you look in the closet and be like, I'm finna fuck them up today.
I
Like, look at
mean,
that.
yes.
Like, look at that.
It's like, yes. some
Shout
of
out
the
to
stuff-
Twiggy.
Right. Okay. We also were nominated for an Emmy for that.
Look at that. Pink. Pink.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I work with an amazing stylist, Shannon Stokes. And so some of it is personal style. Some
Shout
of
out to
it,
Shannon.
yeah, shout out to Shannon. Some of it is personal style. And a lot of it is like the collaboration between he and I and finding like that happy medium of what makes me feel good and feel comfortable and what's also telling my story. Because we don't want to just put me in clothes that aren't telling like my story or my personal journey or that don't reflect who I am. And I think, we've never wanted, like I've never wanted to be a person where the clothes were wearing me. And so
I hate that.
I'm very, very conscious of that. We go through someday or sometimes when we're getting ready for something, we go through a rigorous process of trying on many, many different looks and narrowing them down.
Well, that's a process.
It is. It is. I think a lot
That's
of
a process.
people think with styling that a stylist just comes with your outfit and it's like, okay, this is what you're gonna wear, and then you put it on, and then you're like, all right, thank you, and you go.
Oh God, no.
It's a very rigorous process. It is a lot of time. It is a lot of back and forth. It is a lot of deciding on color, deciding on styling, deciding on
how you feel.
how you feel
Like
in it.
some people
and
think just putting clothes
on.
on.
And
It's just like, how do I feel?
right.
Does it
And
say me?
yeah, and we play with certain things. One of my things is gloves. Like a lot of my looks
Very much gloves.
a lot of my looks tend to have gloves. Another thing we play with is belts. Because I have nice proportions in some of the clothes.
Yes.
We try to do like the accentuation of
the
hip,
hips. Yeah.
oftentimes. With that, we're heels. Like I'm starting to wear like heels. Like I wear heels. So there are certain aspects of my look that are very, very personal to like me and my everyday. Like, I'm from the East Coast, so it gets cold. We wear gloves. Like that's a
That's a
so
staple.
it's like, and then like taking that thing, like, oh, this is like no matter what weather it is, sleeveless with gloves on, right? It's like, well, who would do that? It's like, well, the gloves are like kind of like a nod to. I grew up in a state that had snow and a cold weather environment, so
Very
gloves
cold.
is a staple of being from New Jersey. If you live in Jersey, you're gonna have gloves. So like those type of things kind of pay nod back to like the personal aesthetic of my style. And then in my day-to-day dress, like I just know how to like find looks that don't have to be runway, but still give that thing.
It gives that George Johnson
thing,
style,
that non-binary aesthetic that people aren't always ready for.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah, so it's definitely evolved over the years because again, I grew up in Jersey, so Timberland boots and jeans was easy with a puffer coat and and I'll still wear that. Like I will still wear that. But if you see it, people would be like, "Oh, like that's like put together with like or streetwear, right?" Like I went to like a little game night the other night and I just wore a yellow sweatsuit and I got so many compliments with like a fitted, and it was just like, but they were like, George, like this. They were like, you're like
so East Coast.
It was like I don't even know who it was that. They was like, "Oh, this goldenrod number looks so good," and I was like, "Okay." Like, but even when I'm still conscious of like the colors, the socks, making sure the sneaker hits off of this, like and it just kind of all plays together. Like even when you dress down, it could still, be up.
But I think it's like the one thing I do notice with you, like even with the pink number, it's you love a boot.
I do love a boot.
And it brings me back to inside the book where you wanted those cowboy boots.
Yeah.
I think it's the non-binary thing with you with that little heel. Not too much of a heel.
Right.
But it's like it's that how you felt in the inside. That's your personal style, but
Literally.
that's how you feel.
Yeah.
Most of your outfits is the boot. I mean, he got on boots now, y'all. If I could show y'all right now, it's always a pointed boot or it's some type of boot,
Yes.
and I'll be like, that's George's style. It's always some type of boot, and it brings me back to that moment of how you said, like, you was like, I don't want tennis shoes.
Yeah.
Nanny, I want boots. And she was like, well, George, if you want boots, we're going to get you some cowboy boots.
And I got them.
I laughed because you said I was the most embarrassing cousin at Disneyland with my boots.
I was in shorts.
I love that. I love your personal style. And baby, you be coming with the looks on the red carpets, at the balls, anytime we go out. Sometimes I just want to raid his closet, even though I know I can't fit nothing. Just amazing. Like the leather pieces, just everything. Oh my God, George. You know what you be doing, George. I don't know why you be acting very nonchalant. He be playing too much. Mm-mm. So we have to talk about it. Ballroom. You're like you're like in the background.
I am.
Cause I know you don't walk categories, but I know
Yeah.
you come from the house.
Yeah.
But it's also the other part of the house that most people don't talk about, but we do talk about it.
Yeah.
It's on the politics side, it's on the activist side and giving back. It is the House of Garçons. Shout out to the House of Garçons.
Yes.
CDG Pro.
Yes.
Can you tell the world a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so CDG Pro, which is CDG Professional, it is a branch of the International House of Comme des Garçons, in which we bring professional members from all walks of different spectrums of business, whether it's tech, whether it's marketing and advertising, whether it's myself writing and journalism, whether it's corporate America, like whether it's healthcare, like we have all of these members who come in, and what we do is we contribute to the house, one, with advocacy programs, making sure that the house is definitely doing like community service, and making sure that members of queer community have access to resources and certain things that they may not have ordinarily. I think another part or aspect of it is that many of us do take on some of the kids as our own within the house, and we make sure that they have shelter. Like we make sure that we connect them to housing programs if necessary, making sure that mental health, therapy, like all of these things, because we have these connections. And so a lot of times when we have these connections, we're able to use who we are and in the spaces that we're in to give access to certain people who may not who may not have that same access or privilege to these spaces. And I also think, part of it is like just support. Like we are there to be support for those who are walking. And so when I go to balls, I help get people dressed. I help walk people out. I make sure that people are taken care of. That's what we do. And it comes from like this professional aspect. And we also help people with job access. I think that's the biggest part. Like I help employ several members within the house. My makeup artist is Milan Garcon.
Shout out to Milan.
And so, there are several members in the house who have done work with me or, are planning to do work with me in the future. And so I think that's the other cool aspect of it is we're oftentimes able to create pathways of success for other members who have these dreams, and we have the access. And we're able to help them transform those dreams.
Watching everybody so hard. And that was the one reason I really fell in love with this house, because most people get the aspect of ballroom is just what y'all see on Pose or the TV shows of just walking the balls and walking these categories. CDG Pro is an aspect of so many people that work in the industry, whether it's, the airport or the government, healthcare,
TV and film. We have actors,
activists, people that's in mental health, and just there is so much aspects with people that works in CDG Pro. So I was very surprised, and I was just I have to be. I was I have to be a part of this house. I have to So shout out to the Garçons. And what people don't understand about ballroom, celebrities. What they don't understand, the celebrities, they love ballroom. What people don't know, they just think it's just the LGBT community plus community. No, the celebrities come all the time. Even remember you brought Lupita.
I did bring Lupita.
You guys, I met Lupita. Lupita, I was gagging, y'all. She's so sweet and so nice, you guys. She was living for when I had the Ghana flag. But literally, when you brought Lupita up to, because there's been so many celebrities that have came. It's been Colore, it's been Lady London, Tiana Taylor.
Rihanna's been to
she's judged. She's judged the ball. They come and it go hand in hand with the entertainment. Mary J. Blige, so many. But when you brought Lupita, I think at that West Coast Awards ball, I think it shook the house. They didn't even know. It was Lupita.
It was a great moment. And I think that's kind of the beauty of ballroom is we get to kind of it's I got introduced to Lupita's space when I went to the CAA Amplify Summit, and I met a lot of these actors and people, and that space is new to me, right? And I got to give a speech in front of some of these people who I've been inspired by for so
Mhm.
long, and I got to meet and now I get to work with and have these great relationships with. But I'm entering spaces that they've been in for more than a decade, 15 years, 20 years, and
My
I'm
God.
new in that space and learning the ropes. And so I felt it was cool that I also got to then bring them into what my world looks like too, and what my space looks like, and what other aspects of my life that they get to then be the new person in, right? So
Right.
I think that was kind of what it was. It was like sharing worlds with one another. And I guess maybe because I'm an author, like I look at books as like windows and mirrors and sliding glass doors where it kind of like you see a reflection of yourself in certain spaces. For others, they kind of get to look through the window and see what your space looks like. And then with sliding glass doors, sometimes they even get to step into your space fully.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of just how I look at life. I look at life in that way. And so, yeah, it was a wonderful night for everybody
I
there who
was
got to see it
screaming.
and feel great. It was like one of those like yeah, one of those historic ballroom moments that we think
And shout out
about.
to and let y'all know that Lupita is a garçon.
Yes.
Okay, you guys? She is a garçon. Just to let y'all know. And just, oh my God. Next thing you know, we're gonna make Auntie Angela Bassett. She gonna be a garçon too. In my eyes, she's my auntie. In my eyes. If you ever see her, let her know that she is my auntie. She just don't know it yet. Okay.
Right.
You have done so much stuff, a staple of the community. And I notice when we do be in these spaces, there are people who walk up to you and they be like, George, I just love your book. I just love what you're doing. Is there anything that you would love for the community, for more for them? What would you love to see more from the community?
Yeah, I mean, I a lot of my, I guess, activist roots or advocacy roots started in like DC and in New York. And those communities are very, very like close knit, very, very like tight,
Yeah.
like we're like we know each other, like, and when we doing like that type of grassroots works as community, like we are all in it. Being in LA for 2 years, LA is a lot more spread out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am liking that, anytime I and Twiggy do something and put something together, like everybody comes
Mm-hmm.
and it shows like that this community is here. And
Yeah.
so I would love for us to find like more things we can do to give back and more things we can do to bring that same community together more often
Yeah.
for a cause. Like and I mean, we brought them together one time when we were building, my friend Gabriel Maldonado at True, who created True Evolution and built a $20 million housing
Shout
complex
out
in
to True.
Riverside.
Mm-hmm.
One of the houses is named after me, one is named after Twiggy, and we did this event. And it
Yes,
brought
I
so many
remember
people in
seeing
community
that.
together. And so, like that was like a dope event. And so like we just did, the Emmy nomination
You did
after
the
party.
yes.
And
Oh my
so much of
God. Yes,
community
that was
came.
amazing.
And so, I think about those things because, like, it's like the next time something happens, I can get all these people in the room, like finding a cause that, we can all donate to and that all the people in the room can donate to. Right. And so, or support, and having them there too to share in that space that they may not always have access to. So I think I want to see us as community do even more of that. And that's something I'm just adamant about doing more of for where I live now in LA and bringing people together in that way. So that we can, create those pipelines for people who want to get into the business or who just need help, because a lot of
Yeah.
people just need help. Yeah, and I want to watch our community continue to grow, but like people continue to chase their dreams and like, know that they can do it because there are others of us who are doing it. Um, and be inspired by that and not give up
Designing.
on them.
I was inspired. I believe we was at that party for your Emmy
Yeah.
nomination, you and Twiggy, and it was one of your friends, and he was doing that speech, and he said, "We didn't win it tonight, but he said we won so many other awards, and we
Yeah.
gonna knock down the motherfucking door."
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah," and I was trying not to scream because I know it was like an
Yeah.
intimate moment, but I was like, "Yes, in the
Yeah.
back," and I was like, "Yes," like. You are a creative person,
Mhm.
and that's what I do know. Talking to you, it's always something there.
Yes.
You're always
I'm always
contemplating
thinking about something.
something that you could do. If you could tell your fans one thing, what would it be? Because I know your creativity,
Mhm.
because you've done, even for this book, it was a video that you done, and it was like you were in the pink and the black, and it was the two guys for it. It was I believe it was like non-binary things, and it was
Oh,
both
me
with the
and Dion.
pearls
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Yep.
I love that. If you could tell your fans one thing, what would it be?
If I could tell my fans one thing, it would be if you can see it in your mind, then you can put it in the world. And that's just how I've always been. This particular photo shoot, this was something I saw in my head,
Mhm.
and because I saw it in my head, I knew I could create it in the world. And that's what I did. And my friend Mark worked on that as the photographer, and Milan did the makeup for that photo shoot
Shout
again.
out to Milan.
Milan, once again.
Yes,
You know,
beating the girls' faces.
okay. Because we hire our own, and I just truly believe in that. And I just shout out to like everybody who's worked with me. Serge, who's one of my photographers, Casey Dandridge, who's another one of my makeup
Shout out
artists.
to
Yes,
Casey.
Casey is who did the makeup for the
Yes.
Harper's Bazaar shoot.
Yes, he did.
But these are all people who are queer, who are all within community. Like I am very, very big on, and all black. I am very, very big on
Very
working
much.
with my people.
I
and
voted for everyone that's
giving my
black.
people spaces. Right, right. But not everyone, because some of these folks gotta go.
Yeah, they could be
Some of
embarrassing
these
to the
folks-
culture.
Okay, and some of these people's abuses, they gotta go. But yeah, that's my biggest thing. Is like if you can see something in your mind, you can put it into the world. Everything I've seen, I've been able to create. Every thought that came in my mind that should be a book, I've gotten a deal for. And I'm writing. And that's just the reality of it. Like, don't let these things be just things that you think have to live in your imagination. Like, if you can
Mhm.
imagine it, you can create it. It may not
Yeah.
work on your time, and it may take a long time. But eventually that thing can be in the world, and you'll remember that that thing one day just started out as a thought, or it just started out as a quick combo with someone. And then all of a sudden an idea was sparked, and all of a sudden a movement started. Yeah.
It's like sometimes when you look back how you started,
Yeah.
where you started to
Yeah.
where you progressed, you'll be like, damn.
Yeah.
It just makes you kind of like moved and you're like, I
Yeah.
can do anything, you know?
Absolutely.
I can do anything. So the shout outs, do you have any shout outs or like any projects you got working on coming up in the future?
Let's see. The paperback version of All Boys Aren't Blue comes out January 16th. It's been a long time because it's almost 4 years, and most people's paperbacks come out a year after release. But the book had done so well, my team was like, "Let's just keep riding it out."
Yes.
But we're putting out a paperback edition, which has a new foreword in it that was written by me, and we love paperback because it's a different price point.
Yes.
So it helps with a different community of people,
Mhm.
and yeah, I'm just excited about that. I have a book on the Harlem Renaissance called Flamboyance that comes out
Yay.
September 16th of 2024. So I'm super, super excited
excited.
about that.
Me too. I'm gonna grab that book and sit in Starbucks like a normal
Yeah.
person.
Okay. I'll have a podcast coming out in 2024 as well, probably towards the end of quarter one.
Yay.
And I'm definitely still working in the television and film space. And, we have a couple projects that we will soon be announcing. I would say by January, February, people will know what I've been working on since
Okay,
the
I
middle
gotta.
of
I mean,
of
I'm
this year.
super excited for you. Do you know the name of your podcast, or like, an idea what you're gonna what you're gonna say? Give us a little sneak peek.
I mean, right now, I'll say like the name of it right now is called Fighting Words.
Mm.
And so,
You in there like, "Bah!"
right. So it's
Coming in
called
there
Fighting
like, I'm gonna
Words.
say what I got to say.
So that's the name of it right now. And so we're still shaping it out and building it, but it's going to be fun.
Oh man, I know you're gonna get on there and you really gonna have like some powerful people. You're gonna have
Yes.
some real like hard, maybe
Real
some good topics,
conversations.
real
Yes.
conversations and topics. Please, because sometimes when I scroll past and people are using these platforms to just spew so much ignorance.
Right.
Like I can't listen to another dating podcast. Like I just can't.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
I'll be like, people use your platform for something
For
else,
something.
child.
For something else, child.
They be spewing so much toxicness,
Yes.
and I just can't.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited for you, George. It's been a pleasure to be on the platform. I could sit here and talk to you all day. We can go through all your fashion, all your accolades.
Yes.
It's been so amazing. I just want you to know that you are inspiring, not just the community, but the cis girls.
Thank you.
Cis girls like me who are seeing people of color making their accolades, making their voice known, taking up space.
Yes.
Whether
Taking
it's
up
that
space.
hard conversations or, the awkwardness, the weirdness, just the difference in the world, and making people accept it and love it for what it is, because we've been in that norm, this conformed box for a long time. Anything that comes different into the light, people are so first to shun it and just say that that's wrong. But I'm like, if you look deep into the normal conformant that we've been in, those been wrong situations and things too. So I am here for you. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on to the platform. And I'm wishing you so much best. I'm going to tune into that podcast. I'm gonna be reading the books when I'm supposed to be working.
Right. That's the best time to do it.
Oh my God. There you have it, you guys. George M. Johnson. Thank you for tuning in for She Is Plus Size Beauty Sundays. See you guys later.
Bye.